So very good evening everyone. So we'll get back to the session. That is today's topic we will be discussing is about the digestion. Okay. So what is meant by digestion means it is the breakdown of the complex substance into its simplest form is what we call it as a digestion. So when we take up the digestion process in the human, so I can say that the digestive system is complete. So why I'm saying it is a complete means because it starts with the mouth and ends with the anus. So that is the reason we call it as a complete digestive system. So what does the alimentary canal have means? Yes, it has got a mouth, esophagus, stomach, large intestine, small intestine, finally the rectum and the anal opening. Okay. So now how does the food enters into the body? It is through the mouth. So we chew our food and that food gets mixed with the mucus which is present inside our mouth, right? So that is nothing but the saliva which is produced by the salivary gland. So this saliva will be having a enzyme which is called as the salivary amylase, which helps in the breakdown of the starch or the carbohydrates into its simplest form. Okay, now the food enters into the food pipe. We call it as a esophagus. Okay, so this esophagus, which is nothing but called as the food pipe, will be having a peristaltic movement. So peristaltic movement means so that the food enters into the stomach easily. The waving motion of the esophagus is what we call it as a peristaltic movement. So now the stomach generally have a acidic medium. So why I'm saying it as acidic medium means because it do contain a hydrochloric acid. So this hydrochloric acid helps in the activation of the enzyme which is present in the stomach, which is nothing but called as your pepsin. So how does the stomach is getting protected by its own acidic content means it is because of the presence of the mucus. Okay. So now the food enters into the small intestine. So which generally helps in regulating the entry of the food from the stomach to the small intestine means it is your sphincter muscle. Okay. So now the small intestine will be having a lot of secretions which will be coming from the liver and as well as the pancreas. So the secretion from the liver is called as the bile juice and that is poured into the liver through a bile duct. And the secretion from the pancreas is called as the pancreatic juice. So this pancreatic juice will be having the enzyme which is called as the trypsin and as well as the lipase. So why these enzymes are useful means the food do contain a fatty substance, right? So in order to break down that fatty substance, the bile juice will be containing a bile salts. So that will help in the breakdown of the fat into its simplest form. Okay. So now I can say that the small intestine is a space for a complete digestion. So that breakdown of the fat by these bile juice or the bile salts is what we call it as a emulsification. Okay. So now I also said that the secretion will be poured into the intestine from the pancreas, that is your pancreatic juice. So what does it contain? It contains a trypsin and as well as the lipase. So trypsin helps in the breakdown of the protein into its simplest form, that is your amino acid, and the lipase helps in the breakdown of the emulsified fats into its simplest form, that is your fatty acid, and even the carbohydrates will be broken down into its sugar form. Okay, so since all the breakdown is happening, so I can say that the small intestine or the intestine is actually the space for the complete digestion. Now after breaking down, so there should be a absorption which needs to be occurred, right? So who is helping in the absorption process? It is the villi, which we call it as a microvilli present in the intestine. So this is richly supplied with the blood vessel and that helps in the absorption of the digested food material. So now unabsorbed food or the undigested food enters through the large intestine and again it is controlled by your sphincter muscle. So now the undigested food will be located, or it will be going through a large intestine, okay, and it will be stored in the rectum region. So even in the large intestine there will be a villi which is present, which helps in the absorption. So if it is not absorbed, that unabsorbed food material or the undigested food material enters and it will be stored in the rectum portion, okay, and then like upon getting the signal, those undigested food material will be eliminated out of the body in the form of a fecal matter through a anal opening, okay. So since it is starting with the mouth and ending with the anal opening or the anus, we call it to be a complete digestive system. So the alimentary canal consists of your mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, and finally the anal opening. So again, a complete digestion where it is occurring means it is in the small intestine, because that also will be will be having intestinal juices, and also will be having a microvilli which helps in the absorption process. So here you can see that the complex food item is generally broken down into its simplest form. So that is the reason we call this process to be a digestion. So in the next video we will take up the next concept, and thank you so much.